Hi, welcome back. Today we're so lucky to have David Berceli with us. Welcome, David.
Thank you.
David's going to sit today and tell us all about his journey discovering and finding TRE, trauma release exercises, how he discovered it, how it's evolved since he's discovered it, and the future of it. So let's get straight into it. David.
Okay, so let me start from just sort of the simple basic experiences of life, how it got started. I was living in Beirut, Lebanon many years ago, and there was a lot of political violence there at the time, and there was a lot of bombing and shooting. And what I noticed, two things, is that many of us, including myself, after a shooting or a bombing, we would shake in fear. Okay? And this happened on a very regular basis. And what was interesting was it happened to all of us because I was with an international crowd, so it didn't matter what nationality we were from, what country we were from. It was the human organism having a reaction that was similar in all of us. Mm-hmm. And so I began to question, does that have any particular value? Because it starts and stops at a certain time. It operates the same way in every human being. And so I was intrigued by it. The only literature I could find in the medical field was that this was a dysfunction, it was a nervous breakdown, or there was something wrong with the nervous system. But I could tell, because this was happening over months, that wasn't true. So I began to research it, and I recognized that the shaking mechanism actually is the body's own mechanism that when its nervous system gets overstimulated, a sympathetic nervous system activation, by the very nature of the body, it begins to shake itself as a form of discharge.
Right.
So I realized we were being charged in fear from the bombing, and then our body was naturally discharging us. I thought that was fascinating. So the next question was, well, if the body knows how to do that already, can we assist that? Can we activate this stimulation artificially through some process in the body so that we can continue to self-regulate in the human body? That questioning is what caused me to begin to study anatomy and physiology,
wow,
as well as neurology, to figure out how do we re-stimulate this in a safe environment, like in our home or in an office or in some sort of setting that's safe for us, and then still get the effects of the downregulation of the shaking. And that's what TRE is. It's simply activating this shaking mechanism in a safe and comfortable way in the human body, and then letting it do its job of downregulating us.
Right. That's amazing. Last year I had decided I'm not going to take any more courses, and I'm just going to focus on the things that I've already learned. But then I came across TRE, and it's the most recent course that I took, and I have to say it's so effective and good that I decided that I am going to take that course. I want to learn this. I have to learn this because it's that missing link to all the other courses that I did. So in hypnosis and in other modalities, we learn about how to, heal stuff. But I noticed in a lot of the clients, they had a lot of somatic charges and responses, and I get that these are those discharges, right? So these are the same ones, but I didn't know how to deal with them. So when I came across TRE, I realized that was a missing link into a complete...
That's a great point. Missing link. I hear this all the time, and I think that's true. And why I think it's a missing link is all these other modalities generally start from the brain, from the ego, and they're directed modalities, and then they lead to a body release of some sort. Whereas TRE is actually starting from the body, stimulating the nervous system, and that goes up and releases the anxiety in the brain. So the nervous system is a dual pathway, so we can affect it in either direction. TRE is actually starting straight from the body and moving up to the brain to restore that integration of a relaxed and calm state.
Yeah, so you discovered it when you were in Lebanon, you were saying.
Yeah, so I was living in Lebanon, I discovered that, and then the other piece to that I got, which was years later, I was also living in Sudan, I lived in Yemen, I lived in the Palestinian West Bank, in Israel, Egypt. So I spent a lot of time in the Middle East, and some of that was in very difficult situations. So I noticed that everybody there, when they heard a loud sound, they would make this movement.
Right.
And that movement is a fetal response to pull the body together to protect it. But again, it didn't matter what nationality we were. Everybody did it. They did the same time and the same way. It fascinated me. So here I see two natural responses in the human body, one of shaking and one of the fetal response. And I asked myself, how do they work together? Because they were both done in fear.
Right.
And that's how bring together the exercises to activate the shaking mechanism in TRE. We actually do the opposite. We extend the body out when we do TRE. So we open the legs up, we extend the hips off the ground, stretch the psoas muscle and the muscles in the front of the body, and we basically expand the body, which is the opposite of its contraction, and it automatically begins to stimulate the shaking mechanism. It's very, very simple when you think of it at the basic level of a human body.
Right. The first time I tried it, I got a bit scared, like, because all of a sudden my body's shaking and I'm not controlling it.
Yes.
And I was like, well, how is this happening? Like, why is my body shaking? And I'm not controlling. I could stop it, but then again, it would start shaking, and it was just such a weird sensation that I realized, this is something very cool. I'd like to learn more. I was so curious about the body.
I love that reaction. A weird sensation, you say that. What's really funny about that is that every human body can and should be doing this all the time. And we've lived in our bodies for how many years, and all of a sudden we have an experience and say, how is my body doing this?
Yes, I had never experienced that before, that my body would shake like that. So,
And what's sad about that in some ways is that that's so normal. We should be experiencing it our whole life long.
True.
Because what I've discovered after doing this for 35 years is it's actually the built-in self-regulating mechanism. So anytime we get excited or overcharged, the body begins to shake itself to discharge. And so we should never end up living in a high anxiety state, ever.
Right.
Because our body knows how not to do that, because that's its healthiest state, is to regulate its own nervous system. And we have the capacity to do that. One of the most beautiful quotes I saw, because I've studied working here in the Middle East and loving the Arab culture and Islamic religion, there's a quote in there that says, God put in us everything that we need to live a healthy life.
It's so beautiful.
That's beautiful. So Allah, if you will, does this. Now, every religion kind of believes that in some way.
Right.
But it's a wonderful way to explain something bigger about we're designed to survive life on this planet in a pleasurable way. And this mechanism is part of that design, and we somehow just kind of lost it.
Yes.
And so TRE is about restoring it and bringing it back.
Reconnecting it.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Yeah, I like that. When I was studying yoga, the yoga teacher had told us that there's a bone called the sacrum bone, and that is the first bone to be created in the human body.
Oh, interesting.
When a human being is being created, and it's also the last bone to dissolve because it's a very strong bone.
Right.
And it's this bone. It's of course, like, coincidentally or maybe by design, that the psoas muscle is around that bone. So, and the psoas muscle is where you store all the trauma, right?
Right. Well, the psoas muscle is known already in the field of psychology as the fight or flight muscle, because you always contract that. If you're going to run away or you're going to fight, that muscle contracts for protection. And you're right, it goes right over top of the sacrum, and they work together.
That bone is also, in other religions, famous for example, Kundalini.
Yeah.
Right? So Kundalini is also where the base of the spine, they say that there's a energy stored, which that makes sense now because the psoas muscle is connected to the spine, which goes to the brain, and then the nervous system starts a circuit, which is basically also the Kundalini, right?
It's kind of, it's absolutely true. It's kind of interesting. all religions, when they start to look at the human body, they begin to have their own way of translating what's going on, but their translations are always about, yes, there's some sort of energy, you call it God energy or Kundalini or whatever, but that the human body should have this natural flow of life going through it.
Right.
And so that goes, in a sense, it goes below an individual religion, and it embraces humanity at this level that we can all participate in, giving expression from our own words or our own belief systems, but they always end up coming together in the end about how do we live healthily in a human body.
Right. And it's also so universal.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
So call it this, call it that, call it nervous system, call it science. It's all the
Right.
same thing, right?
Yeah,
It's
because if we put 100 people on the floor and they're doing TRE, everyone will activate the shaking mechanism, and it doesn't matter what religion or culture or language
Exactly.
that they have. None of that will matter because I'm still working with the nervous system in the human body. Now, they might give expression of how they articulate what that is. So some people might call it Kundalini, some people would call it the Holy Spirit, some people will call it, God energy, whatever.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't matter. I want to embrace and allow them to express it any way they want to, but it's always the same thing that's going on.
So David, how did it go from you being curious about something into the science that we have now?
Well, what happened was after I sort of recognized these two things that were going on, the shaking and then that movement into the fetal position, I happened to go back to the United States, and I had a friend who was a neurosurgeon,
Right.
and we were talking about this. So we played around with different body-based therapies. I wanted to explore all different kinds of body therapies, and then I always worked with him around the field of neurology, because the nervous system is neurological. And so we were talking about, okay, let's figure out how to get the body to activate the shaking. So there are a couple ways. You see that all the time in a gym, as an example, when people are doing exercise routines and they're working out and they push the body too hard,
Right,
and it starts to
jerking.
tremor. It's exactly the same thing going on. And so I said, well, we don't want to push the body. We want to find its most easily accessible route. And that was what you were talking about. Well, let's look at the sacrum. Let's look at the psoas muscle, since that's sort of the core of squeezing into a fetal response. Let's stretch it out a little bit.
Right.
So we created several postures, looked at other programs. In yoga, that's considered the butterfly position or the frog position. But we had to pick the pelvis up to stress that psoas muscle enough that it would start to induce that shaking, and then close the knees very, very slowly, which allowed the shaking to increase, and then it could move itself through the structure. So it was really just kind of following the body, but taking neurology and physiology and putting them together.
Amazing. So you had mentioned earlier about that you were working with PTSD and Army veterans that had amputations. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
That was interesting. Yeah.
So I've worked with a lot of military around the world, actually, not just in the US. And what fascinated me about them, and this would be typical, they most often had lower back pains, neck pain, shoulder pain. So that means spinal column. That was usually carrying heavy rucksacks or jumping out of airplanes, if that's what they did, etc., or being in the field for long periods of time. But I had a rare opportunity to go to Colombia and work with some of the military there. And I went to the hospital, and many of the military soldiers had the lower part of their leg blown off because they stepped on landmines, because they were fighting against the guerrillas there. And it fascinated me because I had to figure out, can they tremor, first of all, okay? Because we use our legs in the process. But it was very easy. We got them to tremor without any difficulty at all, because they could still use one leg and half of their leg and still lift their pelvis up. But what the trick was is that they had to stay there for a longer period of time. So I had them get on their phones as a way of distracting them.
Okay.
This was funny. Get on your phone and call somebody up and tell them the position that your body is in right now, okay? So that gave me enough time to stress their structure enough that I could see they started to shake. So then when they put their pelvis down and they started to close their knees, because they still had a psoas muscle, okay? And so they could close the knees, and they did, and they started tremoring. And they got very good tremors. I have videos of this.
Okay.
But the most fascinating piece was when I asked them at the end, I said, well, what was it like for you? Did you find it helpful or anything? And we know the phrase and the medical experience of what's called phantom limb pain,
Okay.
which is where a person still feels like their part of their leg is still there, even though it's been amputated. They still feel it. Mm-hmm. Well, they had phantom limb pleasure, which they said they could feel like their leg was back.
Wow.
That they actually had their legs still.
Okay.
So it tells you, again, the nervous system. Now we're talking about energy fields in the body too, but medical science has already validated that that's true, that we give off an energetic field from our body. That's a field of physics mixing with medicine. And so they could actually feel kind of an energetic field that made them feel like their leg was back. But what it said was that stimulating this shaking mechanism is producing the pleasure of restoring a healthy energetic field in the body. It was fascinating.
Right. So I also practice hypnosis, and under hypnosis, sometimes, like if somebody has had a surgery to, for example, remove a kidney, through hypnosis we put the kidney back energetically so that they don't feel,
Yes,
so
exactly.
To restore the connection mentally.
That tells us amazingly, again, the field of science and physics is saying, wait, our brain is far more powerful than we've given credit to.
Right.
Because, well, even in medical science, we have the placebo effect, which is sometimes 50% as useful as taking the medication itself. So 50% of us can produce a placebo effect to heal ourselves just from thinking about it.
Right.
So when we stimulate the nervous system to activate with the neural pathways in the brain, that really is the healing mechanism of the whole body. Tissue and fascia and all that stuff, although fascia is one of the communicating devices we have, they're participating in this self-healing process that we actually can do.
Right, through the mind,
Yeah.
through the nervous system.
And hypnosis is a perfect example of it.
Right.
It works on that basic premise.
Right, yeah. That's and what about the soul fragments? I think we were talking about that earlier, that when somebody's experiencing a trauma, their soul jumps out of the body.
Right.
And when you activate the tremor mechanism, what happens is the nervous system and the whole body starts operating, and somehow that numbness goes away and you feel reconnected.
Yeah. Well, see, there's a good example. That's a belief system. And so some people would say, yes, my soul left my body, or a piece of it left, and it needs to come back. And there's whole healing methods around that. But what we could say for people from the medical field or people who might not have that belief system is what you just said. Something went numb inside of me at the time of that traumatic event. I froze, or I dissociated, or I went numb. And somehow re-stimulating the nervous system restored my aliveness. You could call that pieces of my soul coming back, pieces of my energy field coming back, whatever you want to call it. I believe there's a neurophysiological explanation that says, yes, you re-stimulated aliveness again, and you became back to the full human being that you really are, energetically and somatically.
Okay. How would you describe, so that was in the case of a trauma, but do we have other cases where that people would become numb, or people get disassociated, disconnected, where this would really help them?
I think every human being goes numb and dissociated throughout all of life. That sounds strange to say, but we're designed that way. Okay. We are both an energetic field and we are matter. And we're designed to pulsate sort of like that way. Well, my mother yelling at me when I was 3 years old and that hurt me will definitely cause me to go numb or become frightened and go sad. And I believe, and that's what we call constricting. I believe living on planet Earth, because we fit in with nature all of nature, which pulsates aliveness, and animals pulsate aliveness, so does the human organism. And so I could become angry and upset during the day, and my organism's going to start to squeeze. I start to go to some sort of breathing meditation, and my body starts to release. So I believe that pulsation is what we need to look at, and every human organism on the planet goes through periods, sometimes daily, where the pulsation is interrupted, and the tremor mechanism restores that pulsation in a very easy way. So I believe it is the very nature of the human body to do it regularly.
So you don't have to experience a trauma to benefit from this, right?
No, I believe you have to experience tension, anxiety, fear, pain, all those things that are natural in life, because when you say just a trauma, people will say, well, I wasn't traumatized, or thank God I didn't have trauma. No, you've had little traumas all day long, even just driving in the traffic here.
That's right.
So.
That's true. Yeah, this kind of stress and anxiety can also happen if you spend too much time using your cell phone, which a lot of our kids and people are now.
Well, now, technology is fascinating. We're in a whole new world right now, and this is very interesting how TRE, or this tremor mechanism, fits in with it. What's happening in the world, and there's a lot of research now that's coming out around this, because we have a number of years that we've been able to do research. What we're discovering is that if you're on your phone, or you're watching the TV, or you're on your computer for more than 3 hours a day, you begin to anesthetize the body, meaning it goes numb, because we need actually stimulation from the tissue. So we need to be moving the structure, because there's stimulation that's being sent, signals from the tissue, from the body into the brain. And they're sending signals of pleasure, actually. Once you start to sit in front of something like an electronic device, like a lot of teenagers on their phones now, they reduce the signaling that's coming from the body into the brain. Now the brain's confused because it's not getting any signaling. And so it begins to think, I'm depressed. I don't feel who I am. I don't know where I'm at. I don't know who I am. It starts to get confused because it's lost signaling.
Right.
So many children, particularly teenagers, there's a huge increase in the medical field that's saying that they're experiencing depression. But what they're experiencing is lack of stimulation that the body is defining as depression, and the medical field is following that. They're not depressed at all. They're understimulated. If you simply re-stimulate their bodies, get them off their phones and re-stimulate the body, it starts sending the signals back up, and then the ego goes, oh, okay, I know who I am now. I can feel my pleasure. I'm enjoying life again. So we've got to work on that very seriously, about continuing to re-stimulate the bodies, particularly of teenagers, because you'll find that there's less of this going on if the teenagers is involved in sports. Because they put their phone away, they play their sports activity, re-stimulation is actually reintroduced into the body, and they're happy again. So we've got to figure out how to live with these devices, but still provide stimulation to the body. So what I do with teenagers, because you'll never get them off their phones. Never.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same. How do you do that?
What I do is I have them lay down on the floor and stimulate the shaking mechanism in TRE, and I tell them, you could go ahead and be on your phone. You just have to keep the tremor mechanism activated. What happens is they'll tremor for about 15 minutes, and then you just see them put their phone down without thinking about it.
Yeah.
They'll put their phone down because this stimulation feels more pleasurable than the phone.
Right.
And so they actually, by their very nature, get rid of the phone because something more pleasurable is taking over.
You know, it would be so good if they could introduce TRE in schools.
Yeah, we're trying to do that now, and we're being successful, but school systems are very hard to get into and that sort of thing. But we're being relatively successful introducing it into the curriculum of sports activities.
Right.
It's an easy way to slip it in there, because when I work with a lot of sports people now. After the sports activity, I have them do TRE as a down-regulating experience, because it calms the body down very quickly. So I think I don't have a problem with electronics and electronic devices. I think if we learned how to use them in balance with the human body, we'll be fine. But we need to stimulate the human body to compete with the cell phone, with the mobile phones, okay? And TRE, I think, is perfect to be able to do that.
Yeah, it's fun and you can do it.
Yeah, it's playful. You can talk while you're doing it. You don't have to concentrate or try. The human body is re-stimulating its own aliveness.
You know, another thing that I really love about it is you don't have to think. So like in other modalities, you have to like relive your trauma, talk about it, humiliate yourself, go through that whole thing again. But with TRE, switch off your mind and just shake, you know, just you don't need to focus. You don't even know what's healing or what's coming up. You just go with it. Go with the flow, release, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's a nice thing about it. Yeah.
I agree with you. It's a wonderful experience to, when you first started, you said, this was happening to me. I didn't know what was going on. But that's a wonderful experience to feel that your body can actually do something that you don't understand what it's doing, but you can feel it's pleasurable and somehow helping you.
Yeah.
That's a funny way to re-explore the human body in which we're living.
So David, who is a candidate for TRE? Who is it like? Who can benefit from it?
Well, first of all, since the shaking mechanism is part of the nervous system of the human body, every human person should do it because it's part of our nature and it helps us. So I start from the basic level. When I was living in Lebanon and Sudan and Yemen and places where there was some violence, I would start teaching mothers to teach their children so that they could calm down the family. Right. Well, what happened is then I started teaching the mothers and the fathers together separately from the children so they could have a new way of relating to one another to help each other to stay calmed down. And then what that did was that built into the family dynamics. So now you have the mom and dad and the children all doing it together after some sort of stressful event that they go through, and they start laughing and joking and playing with it. So now they're watching each other's bodies kind of come alive, and it gives them a whole new perspective. So we went from families, and then we went up to organizations. What organizations are in the area that already do something similar? So you could talk about yoga groups or health groups or all those sorts of things. But then you talk about nonprofit organizations who are doing great work. How do they keep themselves healthy and alive? Because they're doing a lot of difficult works. And then I started working with military first responders, firemen, policemen, EMTs, all that group. Then I started getting them all to work not just individually, but as groups, helping each other, because you don't need clinical therapy in this technique. And they all discovered they built better relationships with one another because they were playing and laughing and exploring this new thing in their body.
Team building.
Yeah, exactly. And they were doing it all together. So what naturally happened is I started teaching families and they started doing it together, but then they had fun with it. They watched how each other shook, they tremored together, they played and they laughed with it. And without effort, it almost was just bringing the family closer together because this was new and interesting technique, and it was very effective. Children started doing it so they could go to sleep at night because it helps calm the nervous system.
Right.
Then we started it into working at much larger levels with organizations and a lot of first responders, as an example, because they have a very close group and they work very hard and they're often facing life or death threats. And so we taught them how to help each other so they don't need clinical therapy or anything like that, which they don't like to do. And they were able to actually build a better bond amongst themselves because now they not only experiencing stressful situations, but they were also learning how to relax together and get rid of those traumas that they experienced and do it as a support group for one another.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, in Dubai, I know there are a few groups that are doing it regularly.
Yeah.
And we do meet up and practice together. I hope this grows.
Well, it's definitely going to grow. It actually, I love this idea. It started in the Middle East. It started from war and political violence that I personally experienced. And it's come full range around back to the Middle East again, but this time in a life healing sort of way. It's like, all right, let's bring life back to the Middle East. It's experienced enough trauma and tension, which it still experiences, unfortunately, because of what's going on geopolitically. But it's like, oh, we're able to bring this back and now use this as a healing modality here.
Right.
Whereas when I first experienced it, it was a frightening modality or a frightening experience to me.
Right.
So what we have now is we started TRE Arabia. And TRE already is in like 4 or 5, I think maybe 7 countries in the Middle East. We've translated my book into Arabic. All the literature is in Arabic.
You speak Arabic too,
I
right?
speak Arabic, yes. Had a lot of fun with that. I do all my PowerPoints actually in Arabic. And so we do it in Arabic and English bilingually. And then we try to bring it into the Arab culture because there are both Christians and Muslims within the Arab culture. And we try to make it accessible to people from their belief system, their religious backgrounds as well. And how does this fit into that? So it's about embracing or inviting TRE to embrace the full culture of the Middle East in every way that it needs to be embraced for people to accept this as part of their human nature.
Right.
So obviously, this is all over the world. The ones who are doing it the best are the women. I don't know what it is. Yes, I know. I hate saying that. Men, I hate saying that. We got to step it up, guys. But what happens is women are the ones who are about healing, making sure the family runs smoothly, and making sure the children are taken care of. That's generally their role in the Middle East. And so they're taking up TRE very well for themselves personally. And as they're healing themselves and reducing their own stress levels, they are introducing it into the families. We had a lot of women who would bring their husbands or their boyfriends or whatever to come to these workshops because they found it so helpful for themselves. And then eventually the men found it very helpful too. So it's going to spread here. There's no question about it. It's remarkably effective and easily able to be applied because we're trying to look at, again, what techniques can we use with large populations and they don't need sort of intense clinical therapeutic guidance to do it.
Right. It's something that someone can just do themselves at home, on their bed, in their living room.
Yeah.
You don't need to go to a gym. You don't need any money. You don't need to travel anywhere.
Yes.
Just do it. It's
I think those are key points. You don't need money. You don't have to buy any sort of product or anything like that. You have to learn how to do it once. And like I said, you could learn how to do it online. We put all the videos up online. We have all the materials online for free. And that's to say to humanity, look, this is yours. It belongs to you. You were born with it. Here it is. I'm just giving it back to you in a new way, an easily accessible way for you. It's yours. Use it to see what benefit and value you can get from it.
Thank you so much, David. That was lovely.
Yeah.
So just to close off, I would like to mention that I was one of the first batch to graduate from TRE Arabia. I love the modality and that's why I wanted to spread it as well and be part of this big movement because I know it's going to be huge. If you're interested in learning it, please contact TRE Arabia. Definitely something worth, if you want to become a facilitator, I mean. If you want to practice it and you just want to experience it, contact any one of us. Also contact TRE Arabia or any one of us to help you, find you a location near you where it's being done. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you've experienced it, if you have any feedback, please do comment. And thank you.
Yeah, we have a number of people here in the Middle East who are doing this. We've been in multiple countries now, about 7 of them or so, and they're giving workshops. And so you can get online and find out where a workshop is so that you could actually do that workshop.
Well, where are they mentioned? Like maybe we can mention it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Except,
That's why I said contact TRE Arabia.
yeah,
Because
TRE Arabia is where
they
I
would be
think they're
mentioned.
posting all the workshops.
Yeah.
But there also in TRE Arabia are the individuals who are already certified to be able to teach this. So you can click on their sites too, because they're in multiple countries, and then you can always have access to, all right, let me go try a workshop, see what it's like, do it for one day, and see if I find it valuable and useful for me.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes people will want to see it online, okay, and learn it, but then they want to do it as well with somebody there, you know, the first time or whatever. And then after that, once they feel confident with it, then they'll just do it on their own.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people will have that in mind when they're...
Also, on my Instagram channel, which is just David Berceli, I have a number of people speaking Arabic who have done it, and they talk from their own perspective as Arab women and Arab men. How did they find this valuable for them?
Okay, amazing. And I just also want to, from my heart, thank you, because what you've given to everyone is something very special, and you're spreading it, and like I said, you're giving it for free. So it's really something that you're doing for humanity as a whole. And I know that it really helped me as well, and I hope that it helps all of our audience. And thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much for the interview. It's fun. You know it's fun teaching this because you just watch a human body come to life right in front of you, and there's just such pleasure in that. Let's bring this to the Middle East, and let's make this like a fully alive experience for everybody.
For sure. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, David.